But all of those candidates that I went and supported, that none of that was planned beforehand. And my phone just started ringing off the hook, coming from different candidates across the country who recognize exactly what we just talked about, is that there are a lot of folks who, whether they identify as independent or not, are independent-minded people and who are maybe struggling, especially in those last weeks before the election, about trying to decide who they want to cast their vote for, given their frustrations with people in both political parties. And so that was where the requests I got came from. Frankly, it was Republicans. There were no Democrats, I think, who had the courage to, even those who I know agree with my same frustrations and concerns with the Democratic Party, didn't have the courage to step up and actually say those things.
I'm Dave Rubin, and joining me today is the host of the Tulsi Gabbard Show, a former U.S. Congresswoman from the great state of Hawaii, and now a former Democrat. Tulsi Gabbard, welcome back to the Rubin Report.
Nice to see you, my friend. It's been a little while.
It has been a little while. Tulsi, this is my first interview of 2023, so you really got to bring it today. I know you're busy. You're doing your Tucker thing all the time, but I know you gotta bring it for me. Can you do that?
Oh, no, I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
Let's start real quick. I don't want to belabor the point with leaving the Democrat Party, and you've obviously talked about it quite a bit, and I was kind of trying to nudge you in my own way for a while. Is there anything you want to comment on related to that at this point? You left, you campaigned with some Republicans. Obviously, the wave didn't happen, but we are seeing sort of wholesale changes on both sides right now. Anything as we start the year off on that front that's on your mind?
Yeah, sure. As I think back to when I announced I left the Democratic Party on October 11th, and I listed out some very specific and clear reasons why I made that decision to leave the Democratic Party, what's wrong with today's Democratic Party, and my decision to become an independent. And frankly, the things that we have seen play out since then and are continuing to play out, unfortunately, just further highlight and underline those very real concerns that I have. And frankly, since making that announcement, I've heard from a lot of people, maybe some people who are well-known names, but just also a lot of just everyday Americans who have expressed how they have felt or are feeling the same frustrations that I am, and that they were grateful to have somebody actually voice those in a way that a lot of folks across the country heard. So, there's a lot happening, as you know very well, Dave, below the surface that doesn't make it into, the big headlines or the mainstream media at all. But it really is this underlying frustration. And frankly, it's not just with the Democratic Party, as we're seeing happen now. It's with the Republican Party as well. And frankly, it points to just the American people pissed off, frustrated, and disenfranchised with those who are in power, period.
What was it like for you because you basically made the announcement and then you started campaigning with some people? I mean, when you were going to these rallies, obviously people liked having you there and all that stuff, but you do have some differences with traditional Republicans. Was there tension there? Or I found
there was no
personally
tension.
that, people just get over it.
Yeah, there was no tension. And I think it was, and sometimes that statement was made, well, we're not going to agree on everything, which we're not. Who actually does? But all of those candidates that I went and supported, that none of that was planned beforehand. And my phone just started ringing off the hook, coming from different candidates across the country who recognize exactly what we just talked about, is that there are a lot of folks who, whether they identify as independent or not, are independent-minded people and who are maybe struggling, especially in those last weeks before the election, about trying to decide who they want to cast their vote for, given their frustrations with people in both political parties. And so that was where the requests I got came from. Frankly, it was Republicans. There were no Democrats, I think, who had the courage to, even those who I know agree with my same frustrations and concerns with the Democratic Party, didn't have the courage to step up and actually say those things. So the requests I got came from Republicans across the spectrum of the Republican Party, and regardless of differences on other issues, ultimately, I chose to go out and support those who value freedom and who are committed to the Constitution and who recognize the need for leaders to step up and lead and speak the truth, whether that is about leaders in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, but actually step up and speak for and fight for the American people.
Does that seem like sort of an obvious extension of the way that your campaign when you were running for president sort of ended, in that you were the last one besides Biden? Everyone else cut the deal, whatever they had to do to get into what would be the future administration. You stuck and fought. You didn't cut the deals. You had Hillary Clinton literally claiming you were, in essence, a Russian operative. So that where you sit today as an independent seems fairly obvious.
Yeah.
If you really kind
For
of look
anybody
back
who's
on
been
it,
paying
right?
attention, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've always been an independent-minded person. For as long as I chose to become a Democrat back in 2002 when I first ran for state house here in Hawaii, because at that time I was drawn to the Democratic Party because, especially here in Hawaii, I saw a party that was really rooted in inclusiveness, in civil liberties, and standing up for free speech and diversity of thought, and the Big Tent Party, and frankly, there were a lot of voices in the Democratic Party that were voices for peace. Uh, that's changed almost wholesale since then. But from that point throughout, as long as I've been in and out of politics since 2002, I've always been an independent-minded person and always really done my best to try to make decisions, policy decisions or otherwise, based on what's in the best interest of the American people, what's in the best interest of the country.
So let me ask you one that's actually purely on policy, because I mentioned to my locals community this morning that I was having you on today, and basically my audience loves you. Even the people that are, say, more right than you are, they say, okay, well, we can have an honest conversation with her. She's trying to talk about this stuff, all good. The one that keeps coming up with you is they still are afraid you are going to come after their guns if you were to go back into government, that they see as somehow the piece of you that is still a Democrat or something like that. I'm honestly not even totally sure of your policies on all of that. So I just leave it to you to answer their question.
Sure. I've always supported the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms. What I will say has changed over the last few years is, previously, growing up in Hawaii, we have one of the most restrictive laws, one of the most states with restrictive laws in the country as it pertains to gun ownership. It takes weeks to be able to go and apply for and get a permit and actually be able to take the firearm that you purchased home with you. It's a pretty tough and rigorous process. So I didn't grow up around, shooting a lot of guns and a different culture than maybe a lot of folks have in other parts of the country. And so as I looked at what I felt were common sense policies around, making sure that we can try to prevent mass shootings in schools and so forth, that was what was informing my judgment and my decision making as a member of Congress. The thing that has changed in a very, very impactful way for me is seeing how the danger of anyone in government overstepping their boundaries and violating our rights, and really understanding in a visceral way our founders' intent to put the Second Amendment in place was not only to defend your safety and your family, protect your family against those who seek to do you harm, but also for us as a people, as a line of defense to protect ourselves against a tyrannical government. And when you look at what has happened since 2020, in so many respects, we see more and more authoritarian leaning decisions and intentions and policies being put forward by our own federal government. And you start to see, again, why the Second Amendment is important. That's what I started to see and better understand. There were a number of things that happened. There was the Supreme Court decision that was made with regard to the New York concealed carry permit case. I actually read through a lot of the comments and the remarks that went on throughout that case, and also the decision. And there were some things there that provided for me some fundamental insight and caused me to look at the Second Amendment in a way that, frankly, I'd never had. And very simply, which is the Second Amendment must be protected as strongly and fiercely as we protect the First Amendment.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of mindless drivel, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.